to report part of the screen and recording by clicking the stop button in the menu bar. You are currently on a text element.
So one of the things that they've done,
Safari, MacBook Pro Touchbar.
one of the things that they've done is at WWDC was to give a spec bump to the MacBook Pro, and it made me wonder about a couple of things, because if this episode with the cataract has taught me anything, even if I do retain my vision, which I am expecting to, I'm certainly hoping to, that I need to not push my vision so much. And you're thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I depend upon the technology to stay informed, to communicate with my friends. A lot of these days, since everything is so phone-centric, etc., for me it's even more so because, or tech-centric in general, for me it's even more so because I can't pick up and read a newspaper, as an example. Much like anybody, I'm on my phone a lot. I get informed, I get entertained, that sort of thing. And, you know, I definitely want to keep using tech because it's what I'm into. But at the same time, I want to try to push my eyes less. So, today at Best Buy, along with a couple of other days at a couple of electronic stores that I've been visiting, I got a chance to really check out the MacBook Pro with Touchbar. And I love it. I really do love it because the Touchbar acts much like any other touchscreen in the Apple accessibility lineup when it comes to the VoiceOver screen reader. For example, I've got my trackpad hooked up to, I've got an old Magic trackpad hooked up to the computer, and you probably just heard VoiceOver speak because I accidentally tapped the trackpad. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you something. I am going to navigate using the touchpad completely, the trackpad completely, and switch to another image. So check this out. First of all, two finger flick left. Sorry, I thought I wasn't sure if I was in or out of the web content. So we're already out. Two finger swipe right gets into the content. Two finger swipe left gets out of the content. So we're going to flick left.
Tab bar, 2 tabs, quick toolbar. You are currently on a toolbar. Full screen button, toolbar, tab bar, 2 tabs, group. You are currently on a group.
So we're currently in a group, so I'm going to do a 2 finger flick right.
In tab bar, 2 tabs, group. 4 items, close, MacBook vertical splitter, collapse on left, new tab button. Tab bar, 2 tabs, group. In tab bar, 2 tabs,
there we go.
4 items, MacBook close MacBook Pro line.jpeg2, MacBook Pro line.jpeg2, 250 times 1, 500 pixels, tab, 2 of 2.
So we're going to go ahead and double tap here.
To select this option, press MacBook Pro line.jpeg2, 250 times 1, 500 pixels, web content. No visible title to interact. You are currently on an image inside of web content. To exit this web area, press Control Option Shift up arrow.
So you can see that I didn't even touch the keyboard, and I was able to completely interact with the web page using just touch gestures. These touch gestures are very similar to what they use on iOS and VoiceOver on iOS. And it really got me thinking that, yes, I would be giving up screen real estate, but if I'm trying to save my vision, if anything, I'd want to use the screen less and speech more. So what I'm going to do is, check this out. I don't know how well this is going to render on the video, but if I do a 3 finger triple tap, right now, I can't see anything. It's completely black. And I can still navigate around.
MacBook Pro line.jpg image. MacBook Pro line.jpg image. Out of MacBook Pro line.jpg2, to vertical splitter, select new tab button. Tab bar, 2 tabs, group. You are in tab bar, 2 tabs, group. 4 items, close, MacBook Pro .007.jpg2, 170.2, screen curtain off.
So you just noticed that in that entire time, the screen was completely black, and yet I was able to completely interact with this web page, with this collection of tabs that I have open in Safari, using nothing but touch gestures. And in the case of the touch bar, those touch gestures on the touch bar are the same deal. You just flick left and right, double tap to select something. For sliders, you can double tap and hold to interact. It's actually very, very easy, especially if you're coming from VoiceOver on iOS. That's one of the things I love about the Apple ecosystem is you don't have to memorize 3 or 4 separate keyboard commands, lists, or gesture sets. If you know one Apple product in terms of speech access, you know them all. It's really that easy. It's just something that you can literally pick up and use. Now, the interesting part is this: if you're on a Apple mobile device with VoiceOver, there is a shortcut for those who do not know to switch VoiceOver on and off on the fly. That is to triple tap the home button, and that will switch VoiceOver on and off. In the case of the MacBook Pro with Touchbar, they've taken that same concept and routed it to the Command key. What you do is you press and hold on the Command key, triple tap 3 times on the power button that also contains your Touch ID, and the exact same thing happens. You switch VoiceOver on, and you can completely navigate the entire system using the glass trackpad, the touch bar, and the keyboard. And the touch bar is great because in terms of accessibility, rather than fumbling around a bunch of F keys, instead you get told exactly what's under your finger. And in the case of TextEdit, for example, because TextEdit is the only real place that I've tried this, you get immediate access to text attributes like bold, italics, underline, and so forth. In the past, you had to basically get out of the text window, move over to the toolbar, get into the toolbar, and move around to find your attribute. Either that or you had to memorize the keyboard command, which is not too bad, but if you jump around multiple applications like I do with different keyboard commands, particularly if you're shuffling between Google and Apple ecosystems, it can be confusing. So to have this additional touch interface be made accessible is just fantastic. The reason I got the Magic Trackpad, the first generation Magic Trackpad, was because my MacBook Air did not, I don't believe it supported those gestures. I know my 2008 MacBook did not, and I definitely wanted to try them because being that I use VoiceOver more often on iOS than I do on the Macintosh, it's much easier for me to navigate using touch gestures. And the fact that they brought those touch gestures over to the Mac is just fantastic. And they made it even better with the touch bar, in my opinion. A lot of people feel, oh, it's not very useful. Try navigating the computer without sight and then talk to me. Now, I don't mean that to be, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I'm just stating a fact, to be completely honest. If anything, sighted people should probably consider using VoiceOver as a supplement. Because, again, this cataract episode has taught me something. Vision or no vision, if I keep my vision, I'm going to definitely take steps to really reduce the amount of eye strain that I use and that I put on my eyes. And that is to go to speech more often. And somebody who's fully sighted, try doing the same thing. Seriously, try doing the same thing. One reviewer of the MacBook Pro with Touch Bar mentioned that they couldn't make out some of the items on the Touch Bar. Well, guess what? As long as the application has been written with accessibility in mind, VoiceOver will tell you what those are. And the other thing that I love is the fact that just because a surface isn't tactile doesn't mean a blind person can't use it. All you have to do is come up with a unique set of gestures that they can in fact use, and voila. In fact, these days, we've got iOS and Android users who are blind, who are running their software completely independently. So the MacBook Pro with Touch Bar is definitely something that I would want to consider, and it's all thanks to Apple's accessibility commitments, to be honest. I could not have a more friendly screen access experience. And by this I mean you turn on VoiceOver, and then again, in the case of the MacBook Pro with Touch Bar, it's hold down Command, press the power button 3 times, and what that does is that brings up a dialog saying that if you already know how to use VoiceOver, press the V key now. If you want to learn how to use it, press the space bar, and that takes you through a literal hand-holding walkthrough of the entire system. And in the case of the touch bar, adjusting the volume, for example, what I did was I went over to the volume, double-tapped, flicked right, and it said, you are currently on a slider. To interact with the slider, double-tap and hold on the touch anywhere on the touch bar and until you hear a rising tone, and then move your finger left and right to adjust. And that, for the longest time, with screen readers, we've been limited to volume, tactile volume controls in the sense that we get predetermined values. Whereas if anybody who, like me, grew up with cassette tapes or the old AM/FM radios, you probably remember those volume dials that gave you a more analog experience. Being able to interact with these sliders the way you can on the touch bar provides you with that more analog experience. And the beautiful part is, again, just because somebody's blind doesn't mean they can't use it. They've actually figured out a way, using the touch bar, for somebody to completely access the system, the benefits of the touch bar. Again, in text edit, you've got things like bold, italics, underline, which again are things that you would have had to find. As I understand it, either in FaceTime or if I have my phone tethered to the system. If I go back, going back to the iPhone, if I had the iPhone still in service, if I had something, if I had a call come in on the iPhone, the touch bar would actually give me the option to answer. I wouldn't even need to find a pop-up that, to be honest, with VoiceOver using keyboard commands, I can't access. I don't know how to access those pop-ups. So being able to access that kind of information on the touch bar, I think, is just fantastic. I love it. I love it. I honestly love it. So in my next system, my iMac still has some use in it, so it's going to continue to get used probably into next year. But for the moment, I have to say that if I was looking for a system right now, I would definitely get the MacBook Pro with Touch Bar, hands down. Honestly, I love it. I really do. And I have Apple and their accessibility efforts to thank. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.